How we doing, everybody? I'll make this quick since it's Friday, and this isn't intended to be like long format or anything. Um, Technically, don't even really need my headphones, but I'll just get right at it. Um, Essentially, what we got here is a review of Amazon's Fallout series, done by yours truly. Now, I don't normally like go live or do videos on my reviews or anything in the past, but I think we're seeing a shift in the way things operate within the sphere of Hollywood and the mainstream and all that. So, that's kind of the hint at the title, falling out with Hollywood. Little link there, but we'll get at it. Essentially, I'm sure you've all heard it's not bad. You may have heard from some of your other buddies that they didn't like it, maybe, but the overall consensus is that not bad. You could say that, at least not terrible. There is some criticisms in a lot of different directions, like with the CGI and a few of the writing decisions, and I have my own gripes as well. But the main thing that we're seeing is, instead of the total destruction of an IP, they seem to have preserved the things that make this Fallout. And essentially, we've only seen that with a few other things in the past, like I think Arcane, which is I think the League of Legends adaptation, is pretty universally renowned or known as like a good adaptation. And there's a couple other ones, like I think I haven't seen this one, but Cyberpunk I think is on there. I think some people have their contentions about that as well, but also like The Last of Us, which I also have my contentions on. Hold on a second. Sorry about that. I have dogs, so I have to mute it because we're live. But when I get this audio after the fact, I can cut that out. But anyway, as I was saying, it's pretty universally accepted and good. But what I'm seeing is a few people who are also kind of on the fringes that outright reject it still, which is fine. I don't fully accept it personally myself. I can't help but get excited when something's done right, personally, as a longtime fan of a world and a franchise and stuff. But it is fascinating to see some people still not accept it, but I understand it. I think I figured it out. And we're gonna go over my review here first, but then I'll get right to that. Real quick, Animation Overload, shout outs, what up? Say hello to the chat here. Chris Hicks, what up? Yo Buffalo. And then Tim Allen, never say you're sorry for having the doggos saying hi in your live streams. I understand. Yes. They're not saying hi. They're just mad at any sort of sound that happens anywhere else. And they need everybody to know it, the whole wide world. But we'll just get to this review real quick, and then I'll kind of like talk about each area a little bit more than what I've written in just a single tweet, and we can just move on to the next thing, because the main takeaway from the whole topic today is how Fallout seems to have done something right, and you can compare this directly with really just the vandalism that is like the Halo series and other terrible adaptations that have destroyed the IP. You can directly compare these things and see why one succeeded and one failed. And I think it's time to actually start shining the light on some of that a little bit. But what I'm saying is, even when they've done it right and succeeded, they're still not winning everybody back. So I think there's reasons for that, and we can go into that here. So anyway, this week we dust off our T60 power armor and grab a Nuka-Cola, some cram, and dive right into the wasteland of Amazon to check out if Fallout on Prime will give us rads. Starring Ella Purnell, Aaron Moten, and Walton Goggins. Let's open up the vaults. All right. Why is it important? Fallout is... Hold on one. Fallout has been a part of the cultural zeitgeist for many years now as one of the mainstay, post-apocalyptic IPs concerning, nuclear warfare in this case, which they have their zombies kind of like Walking Dead and all that. They're one of the major IPs, and Amazon acquired them. Amazon acquired it. Todd Howard himself, who, for those of you who don't know, Todd Howard is like the creator of, not of Fallout, but like he's kind of like the CEO of like Bethesda. He's in there with Skyrim and stuff. I don't know his official title and stuff. He's like at the top. He's the Zuckerberg of all that stuff. But he was there. That's like having George Martin himself there, or George Lucas himself there on site, which is probably why they pulled a lot of this off. And you'll see that same thing happen in House of the Dragon with George Martin's stuff. But I digress. It's important because there's been so many bombs dropping lately, and forgive the pun, but literally I brought up Halo. Halo is going to be the example that I kind of drag out in front of everybody for this video here, because that one was particularly offensive to me personally, just because you could put your tinfoil hat on a little bit and say that they're doing certain IPs on purpose, or you could just like look at the pragmatic truth of it, and it's just like kind of like desecrating a Superman like character. Like, for example, Master Chief embodies the idea of selflessness and self-sacrifice, and to the point where his identity isn't even an issue. Kind of a missed opportunity for Samus Aran from the Metroid series. And one thing that I think made Samus an appealing character at first, but I digress. So it follows the story of 3 different characters. You got and they're all very typical characters from the Fallout universe. You got your Vault Dweller, your Wastelander, and your Brotherhood of Steel. They could have kept going with this too and had just like an insane cast of characters. To be frank, they could have filled this show with characters, because that's kind of one thing that makes the Fallout universe pretty awesome, is the amount of characters it has. It is, if anything, a character machine that just churns them out, right? And I suspect we're going to see a lot more in the future. I think they were just testing the waters with this one. That's kind of the vibe I got. But where they invested their perks, so to speak, it shows. So, that's essentially the main plot. They chase the MacGuffin across the wasteland, kind of like you always do. So here's where the rating actually starts. That's just all the setup here. So the characters, I think, could be the strongest aspect of the show. They, like I said, it's like a typical Fallout thing to pump out just fascinating characters. That's the whole thing of random encounters, right? That's one thing that makes like things like D&D and role playing in general so fun and intriguing for humans too, and writers and actors and all kinds of people like that, because it's just a character machine, churns them out. So, but there was contrivances, like, I think, to try to convey a sense of the random encounterness of the video games. They kind of just had a lot of the characters run into each other, which is fair. You know what I mean? It's fair, but like, writers are going to notice. People are going to notice when that feels weird. You lose points because of it, and it is what it is. But going forward, they could just like really double down on character in general and have this be more of like a parade of characters type show with an overall plot that slowly advances along, and it's just character after character. I have dabbled with this type of story in my short stories, and it's fun. It's fun. The setting, it's Fallout. Todd Howard was there. They have unlimited money. It all looks like Fallout. They have a unique town that I think they made for the show called Philly, if I recall right. They did a lot of research on the games for that town, and it shows. It looks just like the Megaton settlement from, I think, Fallout 3, and many others. You can just tell that they studied it. It looks like Fallout. The setting is Fallout, and it shows. And I think that's this, you nail setting and you nail character, right? And you're going to get a lot of people that'll stay. They'll stay just for that, right? You get a good setting and a good character, they'll stay for that. You throw in good visuals. Like I said, they got criticism for their CGI and stuff like that. But that was at moments, right? Overall, I would personally say, like, for example, the power armor looks very lightweight, right? But that's at moments. Overall, when you just see the power armor, it's like, it's fine, and really all they would have to do is add some more like sub bass sound effects with every footstep, and then just like kind of make it seem like they're heavier or something. There's little tricks that they could do with that. But it's nothing that they really need to add other than sound and maybe a clever camera angle or something. You know what I mean? It's not like they need to change the props or anything. But I think a lot of people resonate on the visuals. If you nailed the visuals, the setting, and the character all within a particular IP, right? Within a world, like, you take any world. Writers, if you're listening, take your world. Imagine somebody just 9 out of 10 on the way your world looks, the setting of it, and that's everything that setting entails. So it's like knocking it out of the park. Oh, and the characters are halfway decent too. Okay. It already is kind of taking shape as like a decent show, right? So why some people still reject it at beyond this point, when it seems to check all the boxes, right? But like, as we've learned from recent bombs, the bombs I brought up earlier that are being dropped, not in Fallout, but in real life, checking boxes doesn't always do you favors, right? In this case, it kind of does, because you had Todd himself there signing off on everything, and you're adapting something that already has fans, so you should appeal to the audience that already exists, and that's what they did. But I think they still made some mistakes that keep the last 1% at bay, so to speak. The dialogue, a lot of everything sounded like Fallout. Like, this is what you're gonna get kind of over and over again. Is it looked like Fallout, it felt like Fallout, it sounded like Fallout, the music's there, it's the characters, everything felt like, almost. There's a few conversations. There's one guy that lives outside of a settlement, totally just sounds like an NPC conversation, but like, not in like a unnatural way. It's just like, yeah, that's what you would find in the game, and I could see that in a world like this 100%. So yeah, the originality, it actually scores decently high for something that's trying to adapt, because they were able to expand on it a little bit and add their own things, like just right out of thin air. There's the new Vault-Tec tranquilizer gun or whatever. You could, overnight, I'm sure modders went crazy with that, and everybody's playing in the game with it right now, I'm sure. But I found myself like enjoying most of the changes. Like I said, there's some mistakes, and I don't mean changes. Sorry, I meant augmentations, like additions, because you'll look at interviews with the people behind this, and they themselves say that it was more things like, oh, why didn't we think of that? You know what I mean? Like, I think one example is 3 vaults being linked together. That's not a thing until this. Kind of makes sense, doesn't it? And when you consider the big reveal at the end of this season, that kind of makes sense. That you'd want a little extra where these guys are. But the cinematography, all the aspects of storytelling, you could go down, check the boxes. It gets like a passing grade on most of it. Like, it's not perfect, but you can tell they thought about it, right? Perhaps not enough in some cases, like maybe the attempting to make it feel like random encounters thing was a little hit or miss. But if they would have just dialed that back a little, they could have done that once, maybe twice, at spaced out intervals, in more clever ways. I think that would have driven that idea home, that this is kind of a random. This is kind of supposed to be a random encounter. Like, there's a moment where Maximus he's just figuring out how to use his power armor, and there's a dude like hassling another dude, and Maximus just kind of comes up, grabs him by the scalp, and breaks up the fight. And it turns out that he stopped. He basically helped the bad guy out, on accident, which is totally Fallout. It's straight up Fallout, Skyrim. It's all that. It's fascinating. It's hilarious. That's part of the fun of playing these Bethesda games, and honestly, I hope watching these stories. But what doesn't work is when you have a character say, "I'm bored, I need to shoot shit," and he jumps out of a helicopter or a vertibird, and it just so happens to be right next to where the cave is, where all the other main characters are, and like the MacGuffin is, and like, those moments don't make sense. But like wandering across the mad doctor in the middle of the wasteland that offers you the Faustian bargain, and he just totally seems insane, but it turns out to be actually not that bad. Stuff like that is fantastic random encounter type stuff. But yeah, before I veer too far off subject here, cinematography right there with the visuals and the setting and all that, it's there. The plot. So when we get down to the actual writing, this would be like what I was just talking about with contrivances. And, I see now that they're trying to do something like the random encounter thing, but it's going to drag down your writing score, man. It's going to drag it down from people who like care a lot about that stuff. And this is why the memes came out like the day after the show dropped, where it's like, fans, yay, critics, ugh, you know what I mean? But because like fans, at the end of the day, you can put up with kind of a little poopy plot and maybe a contrivance or two, for the sake of seeing the thing you love, but you got to be honest about it. I wouldn't say it's like absolutely terrible, because I've reviewed some pretty terrible movies in my day. So like, I think just by sheer virtue of how many baddies I got it to compare with, I can't say it's like failing, but I can't say it's like Citizen Kane either. It's not Godfather, I got to be real. I got to mention the contrivances, and and all that stuff, you know. So, um, but fans will still appreciate it, you know. Um, the pacing is pretty fast because they only have like 8 episodes. Uh, but that's what you get if they had more money and for more episodes, and like I don't know what happened to the whole 10 episode thing, but why the number 7 or 8 all of a sudden with all these recent series. Maybe that's where the golden investment number is. But yeah, it worked out, but it felt a little rushed at times for how vibrant this world actually is, and how much time they could have taken with it. Like I myself, you know, you the Fallout encompasses so many different things. It's sci-fi, but it's also like post-apocalyptic, right? So it's like you can do Star Trek and Star Wars type things in this world, but it can also feel like The Walking Dead. Like, and by that I mean like sneaking through a city at night that's like full of zombies or monsters or whatever, and it's just like horrifying survival type, surviving the end of the world type stuff, you know. And they could have, they were. Let me just put it this way: they were smart to lean enough into comedy, dark comedy, that um, they were able to not take themselves too seriously. Because that might have been a detriment if they made some of the same choices, but they were like super serious, like The Walking Dead. I'm just saying they could have gone there a couple times. Like they kind of just mentioned cannibalism like kind of once, I think, and nonchalantly. It's more like a joke, like, "Oh, isn't that gross?" But I think that's a really harsh reality in survival situations, that a lot of things like to gloss over, and they sure as hell don't gloss over it in the games. So I'm not saying they necessarily glossed over it. They literally have the dude carving the other dude up, and he's like, "That's how you make some ass jerky." It's hilarious. The show really is like pretty funny. But the hook is like any other game, and the ending is a setup, like for the next season, and it's honestly a pretty decent setup because new time viewers won't know what they're looking at, but if they were paying attention, they might kind of guess what's going to happen. Um, Fans will immediately recognize what they see, uh, right at the end, and probably get like super excited because like if they just keep doing more of what they're if they just keep doing like more of what they're doing, but learn from their mistakes also, but like learn from their mistakes also, then they can grow from there. Um, but yeah, I keep going like this. You know, here's the total score breakdown here. It scored 81% for me. You can just see it at a glance here. And you know, for those listening, I'll read it. Character 8, setting 9, action visuals 9, dialogue 8, originality 8, cinematography 8, plot 6, pacing 8, accuracy 8, hook and ending 9. And that's because I'm a fan of New Vegas, and I was like trying to sniff out the problems with it for like the first half of the series, honestly, and the back half gets pretty obvious with the mistakes. This is the Fallout show here. Um, so it's nothing that like you know, they kind of just kind of go to the person they gotta go to, quote unquote. Technically, they just go see the big bad, and then something else just kind of swoops in and happens, and yeah, it kind of just moves everything along. And I get it, and there is those moments in the games for sure, like we've seen with like Liberty Prime and the Battle of the Hoover Dam and stuff like that, which those are awesome moments. But I don't know, for a show it feels different. Like in like in a novel, it would also feel different, you know. But I guess that's where people have to come in and kind of analyze this super pragmatically. And like I said, you know, most of the the most of the fans have accepted it. Most. And I'm going to get to that little bit, the last bit. So favorite and least favorite. I was surprised to find how much I actually really like the characters, like the ghoul and like the actors. Maximus has my favorite line. Just they were all pretty interesting characters to follow, I'm not gonna lie. And but like some of the things I didn't like they changed ghoulification. Now it still works because they kind of tied it. They kind of also linked it to this apparently well-known drug that in world now that we're all just learning of for the first time. But it technically could happen in like the 15 years since any of the last games or whatever. But you know, that all checks out because there's super mutants and stuff. So why not, you know? But like DEI placed actors, really there's only one that's very clear, that very clearly should not be there. Everything else works. Like, not gonna lie, you know, you have a lot of people of color in predominant positions in the show, which is awesome. You know, it works in a Fallout universe 100%. It's not like you're putting this in Arthurian Britain or, you know, some other questionable spot like Edo Japan or something like that, like Shogun or something. I don't know. Not the show. The show Shogun is great, but not like a Shogun. Like you have a Nordic Shogun or something. That would be crazy. But I digress. They placed a transgender actor in the Brotherhood of Steel, and it was immersion breaking for me. Like, to each their own. I'm not against that. You're an adult, do whatever you want, adult. But when you put someone who is dependent on like hormone therapy into a military organization that is obsessed with resources, that's where you start kind of losing me. And you can, I suppose you could still maybe have them in some way, but the character would have to fundamentally change in a lot of ways. Now, the only way that it works is if they're trying to kind of nudge us and tell us to kind of just look the other way. When it comes to this post-apocalyptic survival story where there's very little resources, I find that hard, and I think that is maybe one of the chinks where they got held up from some of the last, you know, like the last 1% of the people who checked it out, at least. Because, you know, we're all kind of used to I mentioned checking boxes earlier. We're all kind of used to seeing those boxes being checked. You know, you got your interracial couple. We saw that in like The Last of Us and stuff, and people didn't care. You see that all the time, actually, and people don't care. To be frank, unless you're fundamentally changing things, which I believe things were changed in The Last of Us, if I'm not mistaken. Which means Fallout could be in the running for, you know, better adapted than Last of Us. So, which is funny because that was another show that had the writer and the original creator there. I'm gonna try to speed this up too, so bear with me because I know, as I mentioned, it is Friday, so I don't want to keep you guys. But essentially, it looked at all the failures that other people did, and it still tried to squeeze some stuff in there. You know, you got like I said, the couple. That's fine. Nobody cared. I think when you get to the Brotherhood is where people started to care, because that is literally forcing you to try to play along, so to speak, and that's kind of what you don't want with storytelling. If you're storytelling, you never want people to kind of see any. You don't want anybody to see the wires. You don't want them to see the makeup. You don't want them to ever kind of just say, okay, I guess I'll play along, because I don't think that's timeless, personally. And we've seen it work in the past. Like, I believe there's been Peter Pans that were played by females on Broadway and stuff like that. Like, just a lot of characters that were opposite genders that still worked very well. And I mean, my own wife is going to do the voice of the little boy protagonist from my free spirit animals thing, just because it makes sense. Like, I'm willing to learn from things like The Simpsons and South Park and all these shows. I mean, you know, maybe South Park doesn't do it as much, but like, I know Simpsons is definitely a great example. Dragon Ball Z, you know, has that. It's just smart, because like, she could probably do a lot better little boy voice than me, for example. I got this voice, so but overall, the whole thing just makes me excited for Warhammer, even though hashtag Wokehammer is a thing recently. Now, because I know, like, Warhammer, like right here, your heresy, cease your heresy. That's kind of Warhammer's thing, right? Heresy. So if they started committing heresy against their own lore, they would directly lose like stocks and stuff like that from their contributors. Oh shit, I have a whole audience here. Oh my goodness. People jumping in and saying stuff. Well, damn. How's everybody doing? Tim Allen is still kicking it. Bat Sauce, you getting in here, Bat Sauce? What's going on, Bat Sauce? What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? All right. So, long story short, here's what I think. They got a lot of people interested. They did a lot of things right. But they still tried to check a lot of boxes and tried to like play ball with you know, what it is that their agenda that all these companies are collectively, you know, pushing. Surprise MFer. Yeah, dude, that's exactly what I'm thinking over here. It's like, dang, all my knights showed up. Dang. Thank you guys. Okay, so my buddy Bat Sauce here, co-host of Iron Seas, is one of the people that I think they have alienated completely. Meaning, I don't think they would have to almost outright like publicly recant that entire like agenda of checking boxes for diversity, equity, and inclusion in order to win some of these people back, because people can just like smell the blood in the water. They can taste it. They can taste it. So if you do one thing, like for some people, it is as silly as like, oh, did you see they just had to have a racially diverse, you know, interracial couple. And it's like, yeah, we can all kind of like, yeah, we all saw that. We all saw that pandering. It is pandering. It is. But that is a little bit more forgivable than like, hey, did you see that actor that was represented in that faction that's obsessed with resources? Oh yeah, that actor who's famous for in real life needing resources to change their health in a major way. It doesn't make sense, and it's immersion breaking. And you can even get past like the attempt of having the random encounters and stuff like that. You know what I mean? But I think that was that one with that actor, and it's nothing against the actor. Like, still have them in there. I would have loved to see that actor as like a random encounter. Honestly, have that person be the crazy doctor that the squire ran into in the wasteland and made the Faustian bargain with, because that's fascinating. Honestly, that ties a lot of shit together, because that actor is the crazy chem dealing doctor. That actor in particular, you're saying, is the one that is helping people make biological changes to their body. It almost seems like an extremely missed opportunity, actually, where they could have checked a box for their agenda in a way that would have actually made everybody happy, including the actor. But maybe I'm wrong. So yeah, I guess my point is too little, too late. Like I will give you the pass and enjoy it and hope that you learn from your mistakes and wait until you make one that makes me never want to watch the show again. Because so far so good from a longtime fan. But from other longtime fans who are kind of just sick of their beloved things being destroyed and torched and irradiated and subjected to mini nuke after mini nuke after mini nuke, we're all just sick of it. And we see one little thing, and it's all we need to see at this point. So I guess my message to like Amazon and other big names out there trying to actually win people over, if you want to hope, I guess this would be my message to Warhammer, because I'm looking at you next, Warhammer. This is from AC to Warhammer. Get your shit together. Really, you got to get your shit together, because Fallout just demonstrated something, but they didn't do it perfect. You could do it perfect, and you got to like not give a fuck about what anybody thinks except for your own audience, okay? Not these fly-by-night loudmouths that have never played a game of Warhammer in their life, you know. I'm talking about the people who've been there for like 30 years who helped you build the company. Always appeal to the people who helped you build the company. Like, that's the core of your company. Just it's I can't believe I have to say this to like millionaires, but you're a fucking idiot if you don't look at like what Fallout and these other shows are doing right and identify these problems, these weak points, where they're actually making changes to the lore still. And just don't do that. Just give everybody what they want. It's really that simple. Like, it's really that simple to just do it and to just give everybody what they want. And by giving them what they want, you get what you want, which is a lot of money and reputation. Because Fallout gets a good reputation right now because of this show. But I'll tell you what, it actually lost some reputation for people like my friend Bat Sauce over here. He's like, nah, still lame and gay. Would not recommend. I saw the show and I said to myself, I would not recommend this show. So, yeah, long story short, get your shit together, 40K. Come packing. Bring the power armor. Bring the orcs, because we all want to see them orc boys. We all want to see them. Bring some Eldar. You know, bring all the usual suspects. At least the usual suspects. Don't change anything. You know, don't tackle something that's already well established or covered, unless it just makes sense. You know, like in the case of Fallout, doing like Vault Tech. I don't know, like a Vault Dweller is. It just makes sense. So I'm saying they could do it better, and they have no excuse not to. And you can learn from it by just cleverly checking boxes. You can still appeal to DEI. The DEI crowd out there, in clever ways. Like, I literally just I just switched 2 actors around on the Fallout show, and it fixed like most of the problems I had with breaking my submersion. It's not an issue with the actor. It's like an issue with where they choose to like shoehorn these characters in, right? So, yeah, that's my colder take with AC. It's colder with AC in the room. But we'll go over the chat and then we'll end it there, because it's Friday, you know, Iron Age nights later on. Let's go through what I missed. Thanks to everybody who's still sticking around. Let's see what we got here. I don't like Frank, so I'll just keep calling you AC. Thanks, Tim Allen. And, you know, thanks everybody for listening to my rant. I want this to be kind of like I get on here, I say my piece. I would like to aim for more like half an hour, or maybe like 1 hour at most, right? 1 hour seems good, but like 45 minutes, you know, half hour, 45 minutes, just where I can like really go over a subject, like emulating people like Tim Pool. He has a good format where he just gets on, brings up some news or whatever and talks about it, lays out all of his thoughts. I didn't have anything planned. There's no script or anything. I just I was like, I'm gonna go over my review. I'm gonna say what I think, And, I honestly probably missed a lot because of that, but that's all right. That is all right. Halo, particularly offensive. Particularly offensive. They destroy a character who embodies selflessness, Why don't they do that in Fallout? Why didn't you destroy the entire thing in Fallout? Halo even says in partnership with 343 Industries, so that's like, I think they own that IP, right? So getting a little bit more egregious by the second when you look into it. It smells worse the more you dig it up. The deeper down you go, the oilier and greasier it gets, right? Why didn't you destroy Fallout? Why didn't it work? Wonder why. It's because it is total destruction. When you have a character that's like a Superman character and you make him like his whole point is to not have like, yes, he's human, right? And he's like a male human, but he also understands like where he comes from, his purpose, why he's here, what he's capable of compared to other people, and what he must do because of that. I mean, a lot of it by his choice, by his upbringing, by his training and all that. But ultimately, the decision for him to choose to not have any personal decisions, like, I'm deciding that my thing is to save humanity. And when you have that dude start worrying about girlfriends and, checking his Tinder or whatever other lame shit they have him doing, it is really off-putting and concerning, and it really seems like vandalism. I'll never refer to it as anything else. But yeah, I just realized I may have skipped some of the Halo comparisons because, like, I don't know, Fallout's respectful. They're both with the people on board. Why did you abuse Halo so much, Hollywood? Why did you do that? Why did you do that? That's what I want to know. Yes. Stop the retconning. Yes. Stop the retconning today. Why does the power armor energy last forever? Yeah, you're talking about the fusion cores. Yes. The hot fusion cores are supposed to be temporary. They just haven't written it into the plot yet at a convenient point where suddenly Maximus can't move anymore. Again, because his fusion core died, right? They showed the guy trading the fusion core away. So they flashed this thing on screen so many times, and they've shown what it can do. So now all they have to do is fire Chekhov's gun at the worst time possible for Maximus or whoever actually happens to be in his power armor. And with the way the season ended, there's another character in power armor, and that could be the fate of what happens to that armor, because where he's going there very well may not be a single fusion core. That's why the Mad Doctor in the Wasteland was like, "Oh yeah, I'll take that. I'll trade you that," because I'm pretty sure most people would kind of like recognize that, but it's actually so valuable, I'd imagine, that some people actually wouldn't even recognize it. To be fair, you get some super lowly types that wouldn't even recognize it. I'm kind of going through the comments here, people, so bear with me. I'll catch up. Yeah, the Brotherhood of Steel, the Theyhood of Steel. Yes, they respect pronouns. It seems like it. They were calling this character brother. So like I said, I think they wanted me to make believe. They wanted me to suspend my disbelief is the term in storytelling that most authors use. Suspension of disbelief. You don't want people to confront that idea if you can help it. Not even once. You don't want them to, you just want it to be automatic, right? You don't want them to ever confront that idea. So the fact that you put a visual trigger of confronting that idea, there you're kind of waving the you're kind of trying to like bait the bulls at that point, I guess. But what it ends up doing is just totally alienating people like Bat Sauce, people who checked it out. And I believe honestly, Bat Sauce loves badass shit. And I don't know how much you're into Fallout in particular, buddy, but like, I know you could be if you're not. So they missed an opportunity. personally, I think. Sandy Duncan did play Peter Pan. I knew it. See? And if I remember right, didn't look that bad. Just like looked like Peter Pan. You know what I mean? Like there's some characters like that have that type of look that you need, you know? Yeah, Warhammer is not dead. Support for Games Workshop definitely is. I don't know if I would say dead, but it is shaky. Like I said, people can taste the blood in the water. They can they smell it. They smell it as soon as it's kicked up at all, and they don't want it. They don't want it. It's like rotting. It's like rot. You just smell rot, and you're like, oh, I gotta get out of here. You know what I mean? You're just like, I already know what's gonna happen next if we allow this. So you gotta hit them in the dollar. Hit them in the dollar. You know. Yeah, bad sauce. About your favorite part. Your favorite part of the show. Yeah, that's a pretty hilarious. I did notice that, buddy. I did notice that. What's that all about, huh? I'm not gonna say it. I'm not gonna pull it up either. But like, yeah, what is that all about? Why did that character do that? Weird. Weird. It's almost like they want you to think about that, but I digress. I digress. Tim Allen claims he's not a knight. I disagree. Barbarian works though. You seem pretty chivalrous, just from our past interactions. And yeah, Bad Sauce confirms this. The diversity pandering. It was the absolute crap story. Okay, yeah. So that would be like the 6 out of 10 plot I mentioned in my thing. I just didn't quite give it a failing, but yeah, like all it takes is like half a point less, and that's like a 59.999, which is an F. You know, it's in the 50s, and that's all it takes. You know, and people instantly get more critical when you hit those speed bumps. You know what I mean? Like just do whatever you need to do in your story to have the least amount of jumps in logic, because then people are in for a smooth ride, buddy. Right? In for a smooth ride. You want them to have a smooth ride, and if they're already hitting a few bumps, they start thinking about stuff, and then now they're a little bit more critical. It sucks. Your shitty writing is now irredeemable, and when it could have just been shitty and we could have moved on, but you know, it is what it is. And yeah, Warhammer is 99% nerdy white boys, probably mostly males. Yes, you should probably you know, and it's my understanding there's a lot of, I believe there's a female, because okay, Warhammer recently has just some flack for like adding females to a traditionally all male faction, and the reason that's bullshit, you know, not because females, it's because why are you still world building? You're like one of the most famous IPs in the world. Why are you still world building? Okay, isn't this all established? And B, it is all established. There's already like all female factions and mixed and everything. That's the thing about Warhammer. Everything is there. So for them to just go to like a very patriarchal faction and just be like, blah. And it happens to be if I remember right, it happens to be the faction that literally directly guards the emperor. So probably not a good choice for your mostly male fan base. But there's a lot of females that get down with Warhammer. Like I think I'm gonna have my wife play at some point for sure. I've been trying to line up some games from across the country here. Yeah, dude. Man, my chat is so based. Yeah, dude. Master Chief for 3 amazing games was a straight line protagonist, dude. Yeah, he's an iconic character. He got shit done. The closest thing to his romantic life is his relationship with Cortana, and that's already weird, and it's not going to lead anywhere because she's an AI. But it asks social questions about AI. So you get look like instead you do stupid things like Cortana is the secret spy of girl boss Halsey and stuff like that, and it's just it wasn't there. And when you just follow stuff that is there, it turns out people love the story for a reason, and it's already a well-established love story. So people will come back and love it some more and just enjoy seeing it in a new medium. It's like having a comic book made of something. And I can't believe indies have to explain this to Hollywood. I don't know if it's because we're the people that have been giving them our money this whole time, but it's actually getting pretty insufferable. Like, it's like, dude, nobody cares about you anymore. Hollywood. Nobody cares about you. We're doing it ourselves. We're saying it's time to unplug. We're saying it's time to step away from the pigs and the overlords that say that this is the way to do something. This is the way you must tell a story. This is the way that you must jump through our hoops in order to be recognized as legitimate. No. People say no. People say no these days. They see garbage like Halo, and they see what you could do, like Fallout, and they still say no because it's not enough. It's too little, too late. But I'll leave it there. Everybody, thanks for coming by. I appreciate y'all. Have a blessed day, and I'll see you in the chat for Iron Age Nights. Peace.